Hi everyone, this is Ghaleon from PokerStars, and today we have a kind of a special coaching and we are going through software called SessionLord. And during the coaching we are going through what the SessionLord is and why would it be good investment. And when we start the software, there is going to be this sort of version screen where you can upgrade or downgrade the current version. It should be probably working with the current version as well. So when we log in the software, the PokerStars client has to be running and you have to be logged in there. And from here, so SessionLord is basically a tool for game registration and table selection, and it does also support going through player pool and automatically color them according to certain rules. And why to use or why to get this software? Main reason I would say would be to automate the registration progress so that you can concentrate on your game decisions as good as possible, and also at the same time with the Pro version, with the SNG Opener Pro version, you can automate the table selection as well, so maintaining those good amount of the tables all the time is going to be a lot easier. For example, if you are playing like 10 to 20 tables, it can be kind of tough to manually do the registration and table selection when you have like 15 or 20 tables running. So this software will help a lot on that area. And also, from the tools I have tested so far, I have found out that this SessionLord is clearly quickest in the registration job, and it will do it very quickly. And I have so far not have had any sort of internet connection issues during the registrations. And at start we could also go through the price side. So I have a image with some information on those, and here you can see that with no table selection, so only with SNG Opener normal version, it's only $1 per month, and the minimum subscription time is 6 months, so it's around $6 for half a year. And basically you can do the basic registration stuff already with this, but it has no possibility to use table selection of any kind. But for example, low or micro stake players or some MTT SNG players, this would be really good already, because table selection might not be as mandatory. And these below prices are like, for the example, this up to $15 means that the Pro SNG Opener Pro version works up to $15 limit, and the price is $7 per month with 6-month subscription. And it goes up when we go up with the upper limit up to $40 per month. And as these are for 6-month subscription, it means that within 1 month or 3 months subscriptions, it's going to be a bit more expensive monthly wise compared to these prices. And also there is going to be a 1 hour free trial for every day, so you can use these functions for 1 hour per day for free to try out the software. So at first we could then go through the stars settings that are needed for the SessionLord to function properly. So let's take out the PokerStars client. We can actually close that. Yeah. Let's take the client here. So first thing that has to be visible is the username here. As you can see, you can hide it if you want, but it has to be visible. And then the language used for the client has to be English. And also the lobby display has to be with the PokerStars 6 tabs. And in the player notes, the select notes tab when assigning label should be in use. And in multi-tabling, this allow registrations without showing buy-in dialog has to be also in use. And then last thing, the games view here in the lobby has to be the games view, so not any of these other views. And when those are set in that way, SessionLord should be working correctly. So let's start to go through these functions software offers. So let's go first for the SNG autocoloring. First we have to go in the settings and use our own SharkScope email and password. And the SharkScope profile should be at least with silver status for the SNG autocoloring to work properly. And then there's also these that you can add stats as note if you want, so that the SharkScope information will be added to player notes, so that you can see those during the game. But personally, I would not recommend using these because I would personally want to use the notes as information how people play, and if I have some sort of read on them. But if you are adding all the SharkScope information to those notes, it might kind of hide the most usable information you want to be using. So personally, I would not be adding these to notes. And here on the right side, you can select what sort of statistics you want to be getting from the SharkScope when using this SNG autocoloring. So there are all sorts of stuff here. And then there is this color rules tab where you can mark, and all of these coloring codes and names will be automatically read from the PokerStars client. And here you can see different sort of rules, and I have used these example rules which can be found here. Here are VC regular, week regular, and so on. And basically, if we read from here, what these rules means are that, for example, for the software to use this marking, the player has to have played more than 2,000 games, and then the total ROI has to be 5 or more with the average stakes of below $10, or ROI has to be above 3 with the average stakes above $10. And these can be manually edited in any way you want, basically using any of these statistics we are selected to get from this Shark scope. But these example rules can be used as a starting point. So then here from the actual SNG auto coloring we can start. So when we start this, it will start reading games which can be found from the PokerStars lobby, and basically it will read all these players who are unknown, that they have not been marked with any color, and list them here. So when I click on, it will start listing all of those nicks. And when we think we have enough players listed here, we can stop the scanning, and then if we click here, it will automatically make a Shark scope query and list it here, the information, and if some of the markings correspond to the stats it gets from the player, it will automatically make the marking. And if, for example, you recognize some player or it doesn't get the information needed, but you recognize the player name, you can manually also change the code for the player. And then if you want, you can also, for example, select here that we want to check Shark scope statistics for 50 players from the starting here from the 4th. We just have 50 and click the run button, and it starts scanning through them. And we probably find some players who are corresponding to some of the rec information, rec labels. Here is one with the yellow color, and if we click here, we can see the information. He has played 2,600 game with total ROI of 1.34. Here we have someone corresponding to strong regular, and so on. And when we want to abort the queries, we can also click here if we don't want to let it go to the end. And once we have checked enough of those, we can save them. And also from here we have the remaining Shark scope searches visible, and also the software has kind of limitation here, but it's probably never a actual limitation with 100,000 searches. So once we have those, we can click to save to PS, and here we get the information note that we have to manually open the player notes window, and with good instructions also. So if we click open here, it can be found from the settings, gameplay, player notes, edit player notes button here on the upper screen. And then we have opened this. And now when we click again save to PS, for example, we can make certain that this is working. So if we try to find this, for example, this SGA0 player here, before we save the information, we can see that he's not found from my current player nodes. But after I save those, it saves all the information here. And if we now go back to player nodes, it should now be was it? Yeah, SGA. So it can be now found here. So really quick way to scan player pool, especially if you are, for example, moving on the next buy-in limit, or maybe changing format you are playing, so you don't have sample on the wheel lines yet. So yeah, and let's go for the SNG opener found here. So this is the normal version without the table selection, and there is not any sort of like table selection parameters. And actually delete these, I had those from the earlier coaching. So here on the settings on the SNG opener, we can then see these different numbers for each color. Let's say put them first on the 0 for some simplification. So this basically defines what sort of value we want to give for each player color. So for example, if we first look very simple heads-up game registration, we choose this player amount to 2. Let's keep those on 15, so we would only be registering on the $15 limit, for example on turbo speed. And this max type would define how many of these games we would at maximum want to have, and the weight profile allows us to use different sort of weights for these different colors. So for example, for heads up we might want to have unknown as 1 and fish as 1. So if we want to only register it into game that already has unknown or fishy player registered. And then if we go here on the SNG opener, put the rule here for the heads up, and we actually have to change from the opener pro version. So if we leave remaining seats to 1 and put weight to 1, it would now only register it into those games we have unknown or fishy player here. And then there is limits on how many of these games, or like if there's 10 games already running, it would not be registering any more of these. And the software also has kind of limitation currently that if you have remaining seats set to 2, so that you would be registering into empty game, there is no this sort of waiting list function in the software. So if there is 2 users for this software, they might be registering on the same same game even if they have each other marked as regs. But if you are using the only one remaining seat that there already is someone sitting, then you can avoid those situations where there is already some other regular registered. And so I can show here what sort of weight profile I have set for myself. So I have unknown players marked as 2, busy players as 5, good regs as -3, like OK regs as -2, and these weaker regs with better weight values. And if we want, we can then also form these different sort of weight profiles for example, different games. And in here we can define different sort of formats. So for our current coaching, we are going to play 6 max, 9 max and 80-man games. So let's make those now. And also, as we can see here, there is support for a lot of different formats, from heads up to 990 men's, if there is such games running in PokerStars. Probably there is. But there is no support for actual MTT games, currently at least. So if the game doesn't have certain maximum amount of players it needs before it starts, it's not going to be possible to use this software. But if we start to form those games for today coaching, let's first select 6 max. We want game from $3.5 to $7 games. So for example, we can set that minimum buy-in is $3 and maximum is $8. We want turbo speed games, and max type, for example, we can put into, let's say, 4, and we use the default weight profile. And in the same way we can add different formats here. And once we have these defined, we can go for the SNG opener side, and we can add any of these into our session rules. And here we can define that how many remaining seats we want the game has to have before it starts registering. So we can basically register into empty table, or if we want to use some table selection, we probably want to register when there are either 1 or 2 players or seats remaining. And also, even if you are playing like every game, it's probably a good idea to not register into empty games, as then you are probably not using multi-tabling as efficiently as possible, because there can be games where you have registered but which are not going to be starting soon. So then we have this weight amount, and as we defined here on the SNG opener tab, these different weights, we now have to think that what sort of games we want to register into. So for example, if we want 6 max table where we are the last person to register, and we only want at maximum 3 like OK regs here, and then some like 2 unknowns, that it would be like the worst case game we want to get into. We would then have to calculate that 3 OKRX means -6, and then 2 unknowns, which would mean +4. So -6 plus 4 would be -2, and we would then add the weight into -2 here. And basically it would also mean that if there is, for example, like let's say 3 OK recs and 1 nitty rec and 1 fish, it would also add into -2, and it would also be registered into. But then if there's some really bad game like 4 OK recs, then even the one fish would not make the game good enough. And here we can define the maximum total games running already. So if there is, for example, more than 10 games running or 10 games running, then these games are not registered anymore. And we can also add several rules into same game format. For example, if we want then that after 10 games these table selection games are not registered anymore, but if we see softer tables, let's say table that adds into +2 or better, we might want those games still into our session, for example up to 15 games, so we could add this to 15. So if we would have like 10 tables already running or registered and running, it would not anymore register these worse games, but if there is games that goes into this loser table selection, then those would be started. And we can again add all these different sort of games here and think our own registration or table selection into whatever we want them to be. And there can be basically unlimited amount of these filters or rules for the registration, so you can define very accurate type of rules, so that, for example, if you want a 10 game with those loser table selection, then you can take those and then take additional tables in any way you want. And also we can, for example, here on the settings, we can of course define, for example, if we want to add like $15 games also into our session. If they are especially soft, we could use rule like this. So we have $15 and we would put like weight of 6 here, and then put also like 15 games. So we would be also registering into bit bigger games if they are especially soft. Of course, we might not have a notes on our on the player pool on the bigger games, but that can be at least somewhat help with the auto coloring function. But let me delete that also, as we are not playing those for this session. But I think we now have actually session option window is not yet gone through. Here we can define that how many tables we want to keep open. For example, keep 10 tournaments open for a certain amount of the tournaments. So if we want to play like 100 games in one session, we could put 100 here. Or we can also use time limitation. For example, if we want to play maximum 3 hours, we would be, or register maximum 3 hours, we would put 180 minutes here. And we can have both limitations on same time if we want, or just one. For this coaching, we are going to just have 10 total tournaments. And here we also have this lightning speed function. It basically allows faster registration even than the normal speed, but there might be some problems with like computers with lower processing power, so there might be some sort of freezing and so on. But personally I haven't used this lightning speed, as I think the normal registration speed is already more than enough. And in here on the bottom is also this see what SNG opener is doing. So when the registration is going on, it will list the games here, and so how many scans it has done so far, what has been the average duration of each scan in milliseconds, and also some information on each game it currently scans, so weight and player listing and tournament ID. And here on the upper screen, when the software is running, we can see how many games it has registered, how many is running, how many has ended, and how long the session has been so far. And also the total amount in percent the session has gone so far. So if we have session of 10 games and 5 games is running and registered combined, it would be at half point here, 50%. But I think I have now gone through most of the possibilities with the software. And welcome back into coaching. So let's start the registration now. So I open the client here so we can see how the actual registration is going on. So now that we have all the options we want and rules here, we can then start registration by clicking here on the on, and we can now see that the registration is done in really quick way. And here we can see that already 2 games are running and 2 are currently registered. And most likely the most limiting thing into opening the games will be finding games that are going to be good enough onto our table selection, and so that the games are actually starting and not the actual scanning and registration stuff. So if any of the stream followers now has some sort of questions about this software or anything else, we can go through them. And as we can see, we now almost have the 10 games running already. Let's keep those on the same stack, so the chat is also visible here. And here we hit strong 2 pairs, so let's just lead big. And now we have 10 games or 9 games running and 1 game registering. And now 10 games running, so it took 2 minutes this time to get all of those games running. And most limiting factor will be the table amount running overall and so that sort of table selection we have. Chat has been quite quiet so far, but so if you have any sort of question or comment now would be good time for that. I'm not going to play all of these into end for this coaching, as this was not really that much about poker content, but going through this software. And we can also see here that on the SessionLord that if we have the registration still running, we can, by clicking here on this pause button, we can manually pause or continue the registration. Of course, now that there is already session completed, it won't be continuing those registration stuff. But for example, if we now decided that yeah we want more games for this session, we can also change this total amount on the run and then continue the session. But when the session is going on, you can't edit these settings here. As we can see, those are dimmed here. Yes, as Daya says here in the comment fields, I have been so far very happy with this software, how fast and reliable it has been in my sessions so far. Have not had any sort of problems really. And as it allows basically unlimited amount of those rules, you can really like find your session rules a lot, so that when you have a lot of tables running, you are only picking the best ones if you want more. And also here, when the games will be ending, the software will be updating this total ended SNG in this session. But there should be now 10 tables running, as there is. And basically a specialty, even if you don't need the table selection and you are playing like MTT SNG where you might feel like it's decently easy for manual registration, I still think that the basic SNG opener version is worth it when you consider it's just $1 per month. So even for a really micro or small stake gamer, it will still be very cheap overall. And here versus mobile player unknown, I'm going to stack off with the pretty strong top pair. Unfortunately, he had it this time. Here is another hand where I basically have to stack off. And here we can defend versus the regular 3-bet. Well, it seems like there is no questions, so I'm going to stop the coaching in a few minutes. And if you later come up with some questions, you can of course ask them on our Poker iMania forums. There is own chat areas for example, if you do get into some problems when trying to set up this software, so you can ask there. And also, of course, give your own feedback for the software. And if you do register into user of this software, it would be good for Poker iMania if you use our own own reference link. And as Deja is saying on the chat, there is also going to be versions for cash games and actual MTT games, and also other sort of functions. So they seem to be pretty. The developer seems to be pretty high visions for the software for the future. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of tool this will be in next couple years or so. And XXYXX is asking if there is any info on whatever this tool is going to support other poker clients or networks. I personally think they have not released information, but I'm not certain like that if they are planning. planning to support other platforms. And one SNG game has stopped, so we can see here that one has ended. And I think this sort of option for session options that we can limit into certain amount of games or time, it also helps on the if you are interested into forming some sort of like daily schedule or routine for your sessions. It will be really helpful that you can just place here that you want to play for a register for like 3 hours. So if you are playing, for example, STT games and want to have 3-hour sessions, then it might be good to put the registration, for example, into something like 140 minutes or so that the last games would be ending around 3 hours. And yeah, as Arnimet said in the chat, that the tool really helps on the volume side also, because when you are automatically registering into games, you can much more easily keep the volume on your, like if you are ready to play 20 tables at the time, you can much more easily keep it around there. At least I personally, when I manually registered, it was quite easily so that at some point I might have a table amount to closer on the upper limit and what I want, and then when more and more decisions came, it was so easy to kind of forget or not have enough time for new registrations, and the table amount might have dropped huge amount. And so basically the table amount changed a lot, and of course that did affect on the volume in longer, like on the fall session quite a bit. But with automated registration you can focus on the decision and so basically improve your game and still have the pretty much maximum table amount running you want at a time. Nasty spot on the lower table if the regular is 3 barreling there. because when the board runs that way, it's kind of likely that villain would not be value betting like 9x anymore. I'm going to hero culture. Well, unfortunately he had to straight. But yeah, seems like there is no real questions from the outside of our own Poker people, so I'm probably quitting the coaching now and put on the intro video. But yeah, thanks for looking or watching this coaching, and I really recommend using this software if you feel that you want some help on your registration site. But good luck for the games if you are continuing to play, and or good night if going to sleep. Bye.